Brought wellies, tick. Got brolly, tick. Packed emergency poncho, tick. Ready for FP3? Oh, you bet we are. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. We're here in Budapest for the 37th World Championship Hungarian Grand Prix, and it's rather clouded over since yesterday. That hot sunshine has disappeared. Temperatures have dropped, and down has come the rain, swamping this 2.72 mile circuit. They've been out sweeping it in the last 20 minutes or so after the proper deluge stopped. So fingers crossed we're going to get some running here. 14 corners, 6 to the left and 8 to the right. Elevation changes all the way around here. We sit in the 3 Springs Valley. It's probably 4 Springs after the rain we've had today. The intermediates have been cooking in their blankets, as have the wet tyres. Soft, medium and hard for the dry compounds. Can't see us using those for the next hour, and possibly qualifying as well, because the rain is set and forecast to be with us for the day. That looks nice and bright, and certainly a lot brighter than it was about half an hour ago. If the crowd are still in their tents, well, they might want to stay there for a little while longer. Those that have made their way to the circuit are absolutely drenched, and you can only feel sorry for those who aren't in a covered grandstand at the moment. Johnny Herbert is alongside me in a nice, warm, cosy commentary box. Not only snug, but a bit smug as well, I think, Johnny, because the conditions not great for the fans out there. But we've been watching the safety car go round for the last 10 minutes or so. It doesn't look too bad on the track.
No, not too bad. Hi, everyone. There's just a couple of rivers that I do know around this circuit. There are something that can catch the drivers at turn 3, I think is one of those right at the top of the hill, 9, 10, sometimes on the exit 11, I think it is, from what I remember, and then out of 13. But yes, it's eased off massively, because he did absolutely chuck it down, didn't it? So yes. Thankfully I was stuck in the bridge actually trying to get across, because it was so wet. But yeah. It's a great track though. Tricky in these conditions, so it's really going to test these guys to the maximum.
As you said though, the best way to clear water off a Formula 1 track is to get 20 cars running around it for a while.
Yeah, even if you go at sort of, you know, half your qualifying pace, that is normally enough to be safe, and the more that go around, the more that it sort of draws the water off the surface and then sprays it around, dissipates it, and those rivers disappear very quickly.
So there's the radar that you can see on your screen at the moment. The blue stuff is the damp stuff. There is a dry patch there before more rain moves in and over the circuit. The forecast is 100% chance of rain for this session, and the forecast is that we'll get rain for qualifying as well, but it's looking drier for tomorrow, for tomorrow's race. What we often get, Johnny, on days and weekends like this, it's an engineer's nightmare. It's a fan's dream, quite frankly. Yes. Friday, hot, sunny, and excessive temperatures on the track. Saturday, cold, wet, lots of rain. Sunday, not so much rain, but still cold. And it's the team's preparations thrown into chaos.
Yeah, which is something we all know turns a Sunday normally into one spectacular race, because we have a right mix-up of the grid. And what's great about conditions like this is someone like, let's say, Lewis St George in the Mercedes doesn't qualify very well. This is an opportunity for them, maybe in the wet, to get a better qualifying position for tomorrow, where we know they've got a good race car, because in the past, obviously, they've suffered in qualifying, then had to work their way through the pack. But even then, people like, I don't know, let's go with Magnussen. I'm going to choose him. It's an opportunity for them as well with Haas, and I remember that in my day when I was at Lotus especially. That was where you really thought, right, I can capitalise on these wet conditions, and normally 9 times out of 10 you actually got a better result because of it.
I think Mercedes would love a bit of wet, because in the dry yesterday in the race pace simulations, George Russell on the medium on the C3 tyre, his average lap time was 1.6 seconds slower than Charles Leclerc, who had the fastest average lap time. If you remember back to France, Red Bull had very good race pace, even on the Friday in the simulations. Ferrari good over 1 lap. Yesterday, Ferrari not just good over 1 lap, they led both sessions, as they did in France, but also on the race pace simulations as well. There is Fernando Alonso, 41 years and 1 day old now. Meanwhile, down to the pit lane, 40-ish years and about sort of 17 in terms of what he still thinks he is. Ted Kravitz. How are you, Ted?
Hello, David. Hello, Johnny. Hello, everybody. Yes, your brave pit lane reporter here, standing in the middle of the rain. And I'll be out there, don't you worry, Crofty. I'm getting wet as we speak. And
no, you're not, because we can see you. You've actually got a roof over you. You're not getting wet at all.
Oh, there you are. Where did he come from? Hello, everybody. Yes, your executive. What?
I love the way you put yourself by the advertising wing that says boss. Is that you? Just thinking
Boss.
that you're in charge
Very
now?
good Japanese coffee. No, so yes, welcome to the. Oh right, I'm busted down here. Still, I've got the waterproof tabard on, and I'm down here giving you all the information out there, braving the rain for you, letting you know exactly what's going on. I got my mates here down here in the little walkway. So yeah, we're all good, aren't we? We're ready for a good session. So what can I do for you, Crofty? I'm going
is anyone coming out, Ted?
Yes.
Is anyone going to come out?
I think they are,
today?
actually. It's easing up. It's easing up. There you go. Enough of the silly stuff. Shall we actually go out into it? I can hear plenty of engines revving up. I can see some drivers in their car. Everybody's on the pit wall, which is more than they were when the deluge was coming. Actually, they were pretty worried for the integrity of all these pit wall stands, which are, temporary structures. They all get put up. They've all got a lot of electronics in them. They all have to be waterproof for just these kind of eventualities. But you didn't find any engineers out here ready to go a few minutes ago. I can tell you that. Just over here from the AlphaTauri pit wall, I can see we do have a pocket in the weather. Can you see that just on the end, T-Bass? We have a sort of the radar, which I know you've been watching as well, and we've been putting it up on screen, haven't we, Crofty, so you can see. But it does tell you very usefully when there's a little pocket of weather, when it might drain enough to be able to go out. Pierre Gasly here at AlphaTauri looks like the car's not really in a state to go out anywhere because it doesn't have a front end on it, but I'm sure they'll fix that soon. And I think we might have Esteban Ocon or Fernando Alonso, or maybe an Alfa Romeo Sauber going out. So don't go anywhere, anybody. It looks like we're going to have some cars on track.
And Ted, you'll be glad to be calling them Alfa Romeo Sauber for at least another year
really?
as well.
What's happened?
I hear news that the sponsorship deal has been done for another year.
I thought they were going to be bought by Audi. I thought that was the announcement that was coming.
That still might happen,
right.
But the Alfa Romeo CEO, I think, has said, we're going to sponsor them for another year.
Right,
Someone's coming out, Ted. Someone's coming out.
It's the Ferrari, number 16 of Charles Leclerc on the full wet tyre. So, yeah, as we're waiting to have the Porsche buying into or pairing up with Red Bull, we're waiting to have Audi joining Formula One, potentially buying the Sauber companies. Well, I keep calling them Sauber because the race team is called Sauber. It's the sponsor that's Alfa Romeo. So we have another year of Alfa Romeo sponsorship. So figure that automotive disconnect out if you want to stay fashionable.
Well, we might talk about that for a little longer. Thank you, Ted, because Karun Chandhok, while we watch Charles Leclerc on the track, Karun Chandhok has made his way into the commentary box as well. We can just about see the Ferrari down there through the mist.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at this lap first before we talk about the off-track segment of Audi and Porsche joining Formula One. Charles hunting around, looking for a little bit of a drier patch, shall we say, but there isn't very much, as he's got to stay clear of the rivers using the wide line. We often see this, and you'll see this for everyone who's going to watch qualifying later on. You'll see drivers using unconventional lines, because in the wet you tend to find grip on the surface away from the normal racing line. So don't be
the rubber gets very slippy when the rubber is laid down, and then the rubber gets wet
and the oil
slippy.
And you get the oil on the racing line, obviously, which then comes to the surface. So going away from the racing line is helpful. So you'll see drivers using different bits of the track, which I think is one of the fascinating parts about qualifying, is which drivers are willing to experiment straight off the bat.
Yeah, and that is always the skill, isn't it, Karun? What's good, though, there doesn't seem to be many rivers really going across the track. That seems to be a very positive thing for us.
Carlos Sainz is also out on the track too. We've got the two Ferraris and Lando Norris, who I saw somebody on social media saying, he's still going to run slicks on a day like today, because brave man that he is.
Sector 3 should be the walls for river, and I'm out of water.
That's in the dip before the track rises once again onto the start-finish straight.
Just to quickly go back to that Audi conversation you were having with Ted, my understanding is that they are very close to announcing that they will come into Formula One for 2026. But initially, although we all expect it to be with Sauber, they won't announce the fact that they are going to do it with Sauber. They're going to announce that they are coming in for when we have the new power unit rules coming in 2026. And then further down the line, there will be, we think, the expected announcement of their tie-up with Sauber. So it is, it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Alfa Romeo carries on for a year or two, and then, the transition happens over.
And I think it's great. These engines that we've got at the moment are fabulous engines. They really are the most thermally efficient engine ever created. However, they are very, very expensive, and there's the run-off area there for Charles Leclerc, because slowing down after the initial twitch was not easy. They are very expensive to build, so the new regulations in 2026, cheaper engine units and power units, encouraging others to join the fun, Porsche and Audi.
And also 100% sustainable fuel,
correct,
which is a big change for even the incumbent people in Formula One, such as Honda, well, Red Bull Technologies, Ferrari, Mercedes, and obviously Renault.
Let's head back down to our intrepid paddock reporter, earning the dosh and splishing and splosh.
Well, I wish I was an electrician, Crofty. I'd be earning more dosh than I do doing this pit lane reporting. But I think we have a Mercedes electrician underneath the car doing, I do not know what, right? So obviously they've got some kind of ERS issue, because they've got the high voltage do not enter signs at the back of Lewis Hamilton's car. But what this contraption is, I have not a Scooby-Doo.
I would love to know.
I would love to know what this is. I can't get close enough to see what it is. What on earth is this guy doing? I'm going to try and find out for you, but I'm an honest enough reporter to know to tell you, when I have not a clue, electronics and electricity-wise, what this guy is doing. Is he testing to see, without contact, whether the floor is live? The car says it's safe because it's got the green light on top of it. There's obviously some sort of issue with the battery or the energy recovery system, because nobody is allowed to touch this car, not least this chap, brave chap underneath it, with the wand of doom, with the wand of many lighted colours, and it looks like a sort of lightsaber. Right, I love this. I'm going to get some info on exactly what this wand is, and I'm sure hashtag SkyF1 and hashtag Ask Crofty or Answer Crofty or hashtag I'm an electrician, let me tell you what this dude is doing. You're going to have some answers. This is, can you see it flashing? This gizmo that he's got under the car.
There's a red light, there's a green light, purple light, and there's a green light.
It must be something to tell whether bits of the car are charged or live or something.
Johnny, do you know?
Absolutely no idea. Ted, hurry up and find out.
I love this. Look at Hamilton at the back of the side of the garage, though. He's kind of helmet on, ready to go. He wants to get out in these conditions. He knows this might be in for the day, and he knows this is an opportunity. But he's got Obi-Wan underneath the car with his lightsaber and wondering what's going on. It's like one of those Gizmoid 2000 machines that they used to have in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to tell if you could go into another dimension or something.
As long as he's got a Babel fish in, so he can actually translate what he understands into plain English as well.
That's an amazing bit of kit. I want to know what this is.
Thank you, Ted. Go find out for us, if you will. 143.3 wet weather tyres for all out there at the moment, except Fernando Alonso, who's come straight out on the intermediates. So 143.3 for Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, the others, with times on the board. Slowly but surely, they're just moving some of the water away.
Yeah.
Has it stopped raining?
I think it has. Yeah, I think it has. Yeah. I'll tell you what I'm liking out on track, Karun, is that 1,000 horsepower is quite hard to actually put onto the track surface.
Yeah. So Alonso's on the intermediates, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just hanging on, wasn't it?
I tell you what, though, Crofty, let's think back to Montreal. Wet qualifying. Yeah. He was the star, wasn't he? Right up there in the top three. And this is a circuit where, of course, he has excelled in the past. He won his first ever Grand Prix here back in 2003, and you know it's a circuit layout and track conditions that is primed for Fernando Alonso to once again get himself in the top three in qualifying.
Yeah. He would admit he's not been in the best cars in recent years, but he's finished in the top 8 every time he's raced here since 2010. Has Fernando Alonso. It's a fabulous track for him.
I think the insert could be a good option. There's not too much aquaplaning. Copy.
I would imagine the Ferrari pitbull will be thinking the same thing, looking at Fernando Alonso's run too. Sebastian Vettel's another one that rather likes this track. You get horses for courses, don't you? In horse racing, you know, the course and distance winners often the GGs to go for in a race, and I think it's the same sometimes in Formula One, particularly in conditions like this. And Ted Kravitz has an answer, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I should have looked at the box. If in doubt, look at the box, Crofty, that the gizmoid from Ghostbusters goes back into, and it's a Leica Absolute Tracker scanner. So it's not anything to do with the ERS system. There is not an ERS problem. We're just getting showed round because George Russell is about to come out the car. But it looked like one of those little ghost scanners that Bill Murray used to use in Ghostbusters, didn't it?
It did. Paul Barham says, I'm an electrical engineer. I think this is a flux capacitor.
It's flux capacitor. So what it is a laser scanner to scan the bottom of the floor for FIA checks and legality. So there was never anything wrong with the car. There wasn't some kind of energy recovery system problem, as referenced by the green light on top of Hamilton's car. They were only using that tensator barrier, saying danger, do not enter high voltage, to keep everybody out, because the guy had to do his scanning job. And if anybody had gone in and said, "Oh, can I go touch the floor?" the guy would have had to start again with scanning the floor. So there was never any. It was a bit of a red herring. The old danger, high voltage, do not enter. That was just to keep everybody out while they did some checks, some routine legality checks to the floor of Hamilton's car. So I'm very happy I did not embark down some kind of it looks like Hamilton's got an ERS problem route.
Well, see, that's why
be honest and say I've got no idea what this is, and find out that it was just a laser scanner.
Cheers, Ted.
Yeah.
How about Inters?
Not sure if it's worth the risk.
Copy.
I have to say, watching Fernando's onboard, it did look edgy.
Yes.
With the Inter's tyre, and actually that's the key point, isn't it, from Carlos, that if it was qualifying, yeah, it's worth the punt, but in free practice it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you finish 20th or you finish first. You want to have the car in one piece for the 2-hour break before qualifying.
And look, Fernando Alonso 2.4 seconds behind Charles Leclerc currently. Let's go down to the Ferrari pit wall, shall we? Their team boss, Mattia Binotto, is with us this weekend. Mattia, a very happy Saturday to you. Thanks for joining us. I don't know, these are the conditions that were forecast. Are these good conditions for you, or would you rather it stay dry for a bit longer?
For me, Mattia, I would rather prefer to stay dry, so no doubt.
With heavier rain.
But for the car as well, I think it's the rain is always more difficult. I think it can be a lottery, especially here in Hungary, because still I think the asphalt very, very hot. So even if it's wet and it's raining, as a matter of fact, I think that the track itself can evolve very quickly, and you need always try to find out the right window for the temperature of the tires. And when the track is evolving, it's never an easy job.
Do you approach sessions like this, and maybe qualifying if it's wet too, with more caution then? You know you've got the fastest car in terms of yesterday for this weekend. So are you more cautious than maybe some of your rivals who have less to lose?
I don't think so. I think yesterday we've been faster, right? But I think today and tomorrow it will be again very tight as usual. I'm pretty sure that Max and the Red Bull can address the setup issues they had yesterday. So today I think we need simply try to be focused and try to do the proper job. So while yesterday we were focusing on dry conditions and for the race, preparing the car for the race, understanding the setup and the tires, today I think we need simply to be focused, get the, let me say, the confidence with the wet, and try to do the proper job in the corner.
It's interesting you talk about that. I was having a chat to your head of strategy a couple of days ago, and there's been a bit of a sea change at Ferrari, hasn't there? Where earlier in the season you might have gone into races to cover your rivals at times and to shadow what they're doing. Now it seems you're very much focusing on your job and forget what others are doing on the track to a certain extent.
I think when you've got the right car and the good car and the drivers are confident, it's
and we are expecting this amount of rain for the next 30 minutes.
Optimize your strategy to have the quickest race, and it's where we are trying to do, and I think that's the best way somehow to get the best results.
Absolutely. And in terms of this weekend and going forward from here, you've mentioned that it's a bit of a lottery. Does what happened today really count for much for tomorrow, other than the grid placings come qualifying?
Certainly it will count, because we know that in Hungary it's difficult to overtake, even if I think tomorrow there may be more than one stop, so strategies can play a role. But if you got the good car, you can be fast, you can have the right strategy, but still difficult to overtake. So quality today will be important. I think being on pole is not so important, but make sure that you are at least with the front runners. That will be a key element for the race.
Absolutely. Mattia, great to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to your operations on the pit wall, and we'll hear from Mattia Binotto during qualifying as well. It's yeah, when you're the fastest car, these are not the conditions you want to be experiencing when you get to the track. Maybe when you're Nicholas Latifi, for instance, in a Williams car, you'd be quite glad of it.
It worked out for him at Silverstone, didn't he?
Exactly.
He got himself into the top 10 there. So yeah, absolutely. But you know, they've got a good car in the wet as well. I think Carlos took pole at Silverstone, second on the grid, I think, in Montreal. We didn't see Charles in Montreal because he had the penalty, of course, at that time, but he was competitive as well at Silverstone. So I think with the downforce they've got on that Ferrari and the drivers they've got, who are both good in the wet, they're going to be in the mix.
Nicholas Latifi, by the way, career best 7th here last year. Got some points on the board and rather made the most of a chaotic start to the race where Valtteri Bottas momentarily forgot he was a Formula 1 driver and thought he was a 10-pin bowling athlete instead. It was skittles everywhere.
Yeah, and then we also had that extraordinary moment with just Lewis and Alain van der Merwe in the medical car starting the race on the grid and everyone else in the pit lane.
Yeah, but all the fun of the fair. It's not raining. We thought it is raining.
Yeah, we just saw the inters coming off of Fernando and the wets going on as
while we were talking to Mattia, we missed a bit of team radio, so let's bring that to you now, because I can't say two ticks or 2 secs, Mattia. That wouldn't work as it does with Ted Kravitz, so let's have a little listen.
And we are expecting this amount of rain for the next 30 minutes, then some drops after that.
There's your weather forecast, ladies and gentlemen. Straight from the Ferrari pit wall on that one, so it's going to be wet weather tyres for a while. Fernando, no damage done on the intermediate tyres. Worth looking at when he came out, but I think the rain has got heavier, as you can see with Pierre Gasly.
Well, it was the best conditions for them, and there was a few other people talking about putting them on at the same time. So that window, I think, was a very important one. Maybe Fernando's learned a lot from, as we see. Yeah, Gasly.
Bit of aquaplaning there, I think, as he came up.
To settle down, isn't it?
When he came up over the crest, look, he locked up the outside front tyre as he came up over that brow, and I think there's a little bit of standing water got underneath the floor.
Been a struggle, hasn't it, for AlphaTauri this season, and for Pierre Gasly, pointless in the last 4 races. AlphaTauri, Ted, down to you.
So, it looks like Hamilton's not going out. Russell's come back into the pits. I didn't miss anything. Hamilton, I don't think, did an outlap, did he?
No, he hasn't.
So
he and Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen.
Yeah. He was all keen to get into the car, and now has just been, as I think you can see on your screen, been told that his services are not required at the moment. He's gone out of the car as well. So it has started to rain a little bit harder. Maybe he's seen that and thought, I don't fancy it. I do like the way that Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso very much see this as an opportunity, and they've got a very busy program going, alternating between the full wet and the intermediate. I think we're going to see some more action from them. Sebastian Vettel's clearly, along with a pink visor, got his eyes on something he can do in qualifying if it stays like this. So yeah, lots of people with lots of different agendas and hopes for qualifying. These conditions are going to give them those opportunities, but not seemingly Lewis Hamilton. I'll keep an eye on what he does.
Sebastian Vettel, by the way, it's a fabulous run. Q3 for 13 consecutive years here in Hungary, and last year, even in the Aston Martin, managed to get through into the top 10. Was running second, could have potentially won the race. In the end, got nothing for it because he got disqualified because that litre of fuel he needed for a sample disappeared into the ether after a little leak, and they couldn't prove to the FIA that they had that litre before it became vapour and escaped from the car.
I mean, that was like the cherry on top of what was a frankly bonkers day of Formula 1, wasn't it?
Albon.
Oh, very aggressive on the inside curve there. That I can see what he's doing. He's tried to, avoid in the wet. Sometimes when you use that curb on the inside,
starts to get a bit of aquaplaning into turn 10 and the main straight.
Yeah, that was turn 4 we're looking at. But, you know, sometimes you use the curb to try and get the car to rotate, but that was way, way too aggressive.
Let's just watch Zhou Guanyu as he approaches turn 4. And he's well off the throttle long time before he gets there. And yet still he can't make the apex.
Yeah, we see that really shiny surface as they sort of go over the brow, and that's where they've just got zero grip. And I think that's where they are now sort of realising that this track is going to be a bit of a challenge for them.
So a challenge then for all the drivers. We haven't seen Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton out on the track yet, but Lewis is getting back into his car, so he might be coming out in the next few moments. Let's see. Mick Schumacher currently 11th fastest. None of these times, well, not representative, but don't take too much stock with these times just yet. They're like the opening rounds of a boxing title fight that's set to go the distance. They're feeling their way around here, chucking out the odd jab, but nothing major.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good to see. It's nice to have a sort of a little bit of a fisticuff, shall we say, going on.
Why were fisticuffs? I thought you were a lover, not a fighter.
Indeed. Lovely thing for us. It has actually eased the rain. I've just looked out the door.
Have you?
And it has. Should we have a little look?
Oh, yeah.
It's still raining, but it's eased a lot.
Has it?
So, yeah, I think from where I looked earlier on, when we looked out about 10 minutes ago. Yeah,
It has.
It has.
I tell you what does happen every time you open the door to the commentary box, though, the waft from the burger stall.
It does.
Are you hungry, Coffee?
I'm not hungry because we went out last night and Karun took us to his favourite restaurant in Budapest, and it was a magnificent night.
Brilliant.
We had a great time. But I am not going to be hungry now for the rest of the weekend. All I'm saying is the smell of grease hanging in the misty air of Budapest around our commentary box is, pungent.
To say the least, yes.
Oh, dear. Actually, you know, I'd even take your aftershave as a better smell.
Well, thank goodness for that.
The burger stall downstairs. That pocket has gone, hasn't it? The pocket has gone. I've just looked at the radar, and we're set for a while here. So let's watch Mick Schumacher out on the track. Mick Schumacher returning to the scene of, and to quote his manager Sabine, the one race last year where he did any racing, which was the Hungarian Grand Prix, and a brilliant tussle with Max Verstappen. And I was having a great chat to Sabine, and she was saying that, you know, there were the moments last year Nikita wasn't really much of an opposition in terms of a teammate. His car wasn't really competitive in terms of everyone else. He was running races for a long periods on his own. But here, he could race against Max, and he actually really enjoyed it, and I thought did very well.
Yeah.
Even with the damage on that Red Bull car.
Sure, yeah. But that, again, that's where you learn. You learn with these guys racing. Same thing when he had that, you know, a little battle with Max in Silverstone as well. So it's something that you need sometimes just to give you that little extra sort of spark to sort of move yourself onto the next level.
It's a bit of an issue for Haas, really, because this is the first race they've brought in an updated car.
Yeah.
And actually, they wanted a good, clean, dry weekend for them to see where that update's, at, because now we're heading to the summer break, and really it'd be quite handy to know which direction to go, for the next 9 races.
Yeah.
And not having that opportunity here with a wet day is somewhat made a mess of that plan.
Good day to have even more downforce on your rear wing, I'd have thought. The Aston Martin rear wing might really play into their hands. Schumacher running the old Haas, and Kevin Magnussen the new updated Haas this weekend. So the Haas without the upgrades, Mick Schumacher out on the track.
That's a lot of stuff in water.
Okay.
And he is pretty much all by himself with his teammate Kevin Magnussen just going around turn 2 and Valtteri Bottas just going around turn 12. There's only 3 cars on the track. It's like a private testing day.
It is, and it looks tricky as anything. It came out of that top chicane and it was snaking all over the place. You could hear the revs building up as the wheel spin was sort of coming through those rear tyres, losing the grip that they had. This is sort of coming down to the final sort of couple of corners at 12 into 13. There's a river generally that comes on the exit here of 13. About
So
that
it's
quite
like-
shiny.
If it's like this for qualifying, if it's exactly like this, they're all going to be out there, or,
Yeah.
or would
Yeah.
they be thinking we'd like a bit of a delay here?
No, 100%. They'll be out there doing the laps. I mean, it's fine. It's wet, but it's safe to drive. So, yeah, no question about it. You know, these are the best cars and drivers on the planet. They should be out there.
Yeah, and you keep driving around because obviously it will get faster and faster, and then who knows if a red flag sort of comes at the wrong time, for example. So you've got to get a time in.
Yeah, there's the puddles. And to be fair to those in charge of track operations here at the circuit, after the mass deluge just before practice started, they did get the sweepers out as best they could, and had quite a few marshals on the top part of the circuit with brooms brushing away the water.
There's actually more elevation change around the circuit than it perhaps looks from even these onboard shots. You know,
Indeed.
this climb up to turn 4 is actually steep. It's pretty steep. So it drains pretty well, actually. Even naturally, you know, the water flows off into the drains, and there are various pockets where they can collect outside the ribbon of asphalt.
Yeah, and secondly, it dries very quick as well. So that's something else that we get here.
It's really warm at this time.
Well,
of
again,
year,
but
that helps.
some sort of dry slower than others, even in hot weather. But this one here, it's like Spa, dries massively quick.
It does.
It does. You're right.
My socks didn't.
Still got trench foot from the last time we went to Spa. Johnny, to be honest, I was in the commentary box all afternoon. I've seen glimpses of a potential calendar for next year. Well, there's a bit of a debate as to what races go where, and nothing is official yet. But I saw Spa might have been penciled in for round about mid-April. I thought that'll be good. Then what we're going to do? Attach snow plows to the front wing.
Yeah,
that could be the coldest we've ever had at a Formula One race.
I get that. That's why I think this common sense will prevail, and it'll go. If Spa does happen, and by the way, there is a risk that it may not. You know, I think it will go back to its normal slot later in the year. Do you remember that year, the 2020 COVID season, when we went to the Nürburgring, and it was 7 degrees, and we were all standing there shivering.
7? That's warm. I've done a -1 on a Saturday. Not the ring of Nürburgring. At 95, I think it was. It was freezing.
I know Mark Webber, when he won his first race, and he won it at the Nürburgring, it was round about 8-9 degrees temperature that day. We actually had to have the heating on in the commentary box. It was so perishing. Lewis Hamilton's coming out. Half of the session gone. He's not really missed a huge amount of running because of the conditions. Spa in mid-April. I'm sure they do go racing at Spa in mid-April.
Yeah, snowmobile racing up.
Hey, can we start a rumour? Kimi Räikkönen's coming back to Formula One. Skidoo racing at Spa as a support series for the weekend. That'll work for me. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Honestly, you lot, you complain when it's too cold, and then you complain when it's too hot.
And you wear shorts and sandals all the time.
Yeah. No pleasing you lot in your atmosphere-conditioned commentary boxes. And waterproof shoes are available, you know.
So I'm told.
Yeah. Invest in a pair.
I'm not wearing them.
Was it? You should. Right, after the hectoring, I can tell you what's going on, and shoe advice. I can tell you what's going on with Verstappen and Perez. And Verstappen has now decided that now it's started to ease up. There's not much rain going down. There's little smaller risk of binning the car. Not that he's going to do that. He's pretty handy in these conditions. But more to learn about potentially the kind of conditions we're going to get in qualifying. So he's getting into the car in about a minute's time. He's just finishing putting his crash helmet on and getting his gloves on. Checo doesn't fancy it so much, it seems. Oh no, I say that. He's just putting his crash helmet on. Less assured in the rain, maybe, is the more generous way to put it with Sergio Perez. It's never been his favourite conditions, although he's no less skilled in the rain. He just doesn't tend to have the results that his teammate might be able to call on in wet conditions. But in any case, as Hamilton's out, Verstappen's about to go out, and then will be followed by Perez. But yeah, it hasn't rained for about 3 minutes down here, so starting to ease up.
Marvellous. Do you know, Ted, you were talking about that scanner a little earlier on where we saw the mechanic on his back.
The laser scanner.
The laser scanner. I've just got some details from John O'Kimber, who says the Leica Absolute Laser Scanner for dimensional measurement measures 1.2 million points per second. It has a 150mm wide scan stripe and a plus or minus 0.05mm accuracy over a 60-metre range.
Great. So the way that mechanic was just
I want one of those things now.
What are you going to scan with it? The way that mechanic was just generally pointing it in the direction of bits of floor meant that the scanner would do the rest of the job. So yeah, well looked up on the internet, that man.
Well, he might be an expert in that field.
Then declare himself an expert. Let us know.
Well, I've just declared him an expert, so there you go. Thank you very much. We're watching Lewis Hamilton out on the track now. Approach with caution. That's what they need to put on the brake marker boards at turn 4. And then
so gingerly.
You've just got to wait forever to get on the throttle, haven't you?
Just watch the graphic. Just watch how gently he's feeding it in. Barely gets to full throttle. Frankly, on that occasion, he didn't. It's so tricky, especially this sector here, because as we were saying yesterday, from turn 4 till 11, you never really get the steering wheel straight. And Lewis, it's obviously early in his run. He's still trying to find out where the water really is and where the grip is. But it's only now that he's got to full throttle since turn 5.
Yeah.
How do Mercedes go about trying to generate some temperature into their tyres on a colder day like today when it seemed like a bit of an issue for them yesterday?
In these conditions...
Sorry to hit you with the easy questions.
Yes, thank you. Well, again, tyre pressures is one thing, but I think that's something that's not really going to sort of come into play realistically. But it's really down to how the car will react and trying to find the right areas of the track where the grip is. That's the only way you're going to be able to generate it. You can't force feed heat into the tyre at all, sadly.
On a day like today, you have a minimum starting pressure for the tyres, but it's worth inflating them above that to make the tyres, harder.
The only thing,
not so squidgy through the puddles to maintain the temperature in them.
Yeah, listen, it's a balancing act, isn't it, of when, because the lower pressure you have the squidginess you're talking about gives you a slightly better contact patch because it's not as rounded, obviously. So there's a sweet spot in there that they need to find. I think the only answer, really, to that question you asked, Johnny, is for them to just keep going round and round and round. Because that's the only way you generate. That's the only way.
Yeah, if you do higher tyre pressures, for example, when it dries, then they will go completely out the window and sort of burn up earlier than they need to. So it's like Karun said, a balancing act.
No more rain expected, says Nicholas Latifi. We were just watching Kevin Magnussen's Johnny's tip for massive success today. He's currently 4th fastest, and I mention this, Johnny, because your predictions are coming true on this one.
I'll take that now.
Still struggling a touch in the top part of the track. He has the upgraded Haas for this weekend. It looks very much like a Ferrari, but as Gunther Steiner, man you just saw, says, don't be surprised about that. So I think no more rain expected. If that is the case, then I think we're on for a quite busy last 20 minutes.
Yes, we are.
Session.
Well, this is going to be the best the conditions are with this little...
Yeah, Gasly. Karun, you were saying the best way to do this is just to go round and around and around. That wasn't what you had in mind, was it?
No. If you were going to spin, though, do it in the slowest corner on the track, so that's the safest place not to hit anything.
Yes, he was quite aggressive over the curb, and it bounced all over the place, and that's why it ended up spinning like that.
Let's have a look.
Here we go. As he turns in.
Yeah, just understeer and then boom. There you go. Very aggressive those curbs can be.
He's turning into the spin like you should do, but that's having no effect whatsoever.
Yeah,
see the bounce.
I suspect he won't be the last one we see that chicane, because it's a really tricky one, because it all started at the entry. As you go over a little crest, and as he went over that, he had a bit of under rotation on the front right, so that put him a little bit wide for the right hand part of the chicane, and then put him on top of the curb for the left part, which spun the car around. Jonathan Edels there, the chief race engineer, very, very experienced. It's a really experienced pit wall, actually, at AlphaTauri. Jody Egginton, been around a long time.
Yeah.
You know, Franz Tost, of course, been there a very long time. So there's, you know, they're a good, experienced pit wall, which is exactly what that team needs.
Correct.
No grip. Struggling. Yeah. Struggling a lot.
Yeah, and but that doesn't surprise me. If they were struggling yesterday for grip and for temperature, the track now is about 30 degrees cooler. So you rather feel that trend could continue. And
He done 4 laps as well. It's not like, you know, it was on the out lap for the first time lap. That's not not encouraging, is it?
The theory that a bit of rain helps Mercedes, well, yes, it does, because it makes, as Mattia Binotto said, qualifying a bit of a lottery. I'm not necessarily sure it really helps the team for whom switching on the tyres is their Achilles heel.
Yeah. And at Silverstone, it kind of worked for Lewis because it's a high-speed circuit, so you can generate that temperature and heat with the fast corners and the load you put in the tyre. But yeah, you're right, it isn't here.
Yeah, and generally from a slick tyre to a wet tyre, of course the construction and the way the tyre is built is completely different, which almost helps generate more temperature itself. But that seems as if the Mercedes is not being able to do it at the present time. But let's hope they do.
Lando Norris didn't seem to have much trouble switching on the tyres yesterday, and I was really encouraged by McLaren's performance here. Not just Lando, but his teammate Daniel Ricciardo as well. And I wonder if they're the lead contenders for the best of the rest behind Red Bull and Ferrari this weekend.
He was pretty dismissive though, Lando, wasn't he? He quickly came out with a line about McLaren often turning the engines up a bit more as a qualifying simulation on a Friday. So he sort of batted away their performance.
A little bit.
No grip. Struggling. Yeah. Struggling a lot.
And the conditions are tricky and at times treacherous, but George Russell's still saying that he's struggling for grip. And this, of course, a man who lined up, didn't he, in Spa last year in the race that never really was a race, and managed to be on the front row and then make that stick into his first ever podium in Formula One.
Yeah, definitely. Loading of the car is something that is just way harder to be able to then generate the heat through the tyre itself. When you go to a high-speed circuit, for example, you can lean on the tyre much more, which then generates that heat. You've always, if you just drive around like you are driving your car to Tesco's, these tyres will just go totally and utterly cold, and then they are impossible to drive. So you actually have to drive through it to be able to get a bit of temperature into it. But it's quite a tricky thing to do.
Wiggle it
like this.
just
and
a
there
little
you go.
bit with Lando Norris there.
Yeah, and it's how smooth they are even on the throttle, but even still they are lacking again coming out of the last corner there to control that wheel spin at the back.
Yeah, they're going to know they've been in a qualifying hour, all the drivers, after this one today, because there's going to be an awful lot of twitches and wiggles that they weren't expecting whatsoever, that they're going to have to deal with to keep the car in between the white lines.
Yeah, this is where the best rise to the surface, though. It's the guys that have that sort of little extra feel factor, and they can sort of, get the job done. And this man is one of those that we would think this could be a great opportunity for Fernando and Alpine.
Back on the intermediate tyres as well, as is George Russell, who's back out on the track, Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez too. Ted, down to you.
George Russell, always good in the wet, and let's see if the intermediate tyres warm up quicker or work for him better than the full wets. He's just gone out, as has Lewis Hamilton on the intermediates. And I guess that's sometimes what happens when you go from a Williams, like George did, talked about Spa before, didn't you, Crofty, and where a car that can just light up its tyres very quickly, get good instant heat into them, sharpish, and compared to the Mercedes he's driving now. In fact, George has come straight back. He doesn't like that set of inters either. Oh dear, oh dear. He didn't complete the lap. He just went out on an out lap and is now back in the garage. So, yeah, let's...
Ted, is that just a lap on intermediates with qualifying in mind. What did Martin Brundle calls it? Curing the tyres. It's not necessarily curing, but it's just that conditioning the tyres, take the initial little bit off so that they actually work better and switch on easier when it comes to qualifying.
Possibly. Let's see if the nice people at the director's chair can see if there's any Russell radio to turn around.
Them's the tyres that he'll get pole on. Trust me.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Watch this moment here, guys, from Fernando Alonso out of 3. I mean, wow.
There was a lot going on in the cockpit, wasn't there?
He was heading towards a barrier there, wasn't he?
But this is the first lap. I think we're going to see the intermediate tyres as Sebastian Vettel runs wide at 11. We're going to see Alonso on the intermediate tyres, I think, go to the top of the times, because he went fastest of anybody in Sector 3. And the tyres are now waking up, so he's improving this lap, and that's why we're starting to see people like Max Verstappen come out on the intermediates.
Max is like, all right, okay, then if it's getting busy now, if it's worth it, I'll get myself out onto the track for the first time in this session. We saw Sebastian emerging from the runoff area, who announced his retirement from Formula One at the end of the season on Thursday, to the surprise of absolutely everybody in the paddock, even those who said, I could have seen this coming a long way off. Certainly surprised his team, who I think reckoned that he was going to be staying, or were at least in discussions about him staying for a little while longer.
Wasn't a complete surprise, was it?
See, there's always one, isn't there?
There's no grip on his tyre.
That rather backs up what his teammate George Russell was saying too. Yes, it wasn't a complete surprise, but the timing of it was.
Right.
Shall we say that?
Yeah, I think that's we can agree on that.
It could all be wise after the event as well. I saw it coming a mile off. The minute he brought his children to Austria, we knew that was the end of his Formula One career. Although I'm told he quite often brings his family to the Austrian Grand Prix. You just don't always see them. Lovely view of the suspension on the Aston Martin. Where did Fernando Alonso end up on that lap? He backed off.
Yeah, but he's going again now, and he's going very quickly, Crofty, in the first sector of the lap here. So maybe a recharge lap. Even in these conditions, obviously they've still got the hybrid battery power, so they do have to manage how they use that, and he's gone 0.6 faster as Vettel's gone off again at turn 11.
Yeah, exactly. Consistency, but not the way that he would want it. Ted, down to you.
Just a quick thought on Vettel. How much?
Oh, 2 seconds, Ted.
I've got absolutely no grip at the moment.
Not just the Mercedes drivers struggling with a lack of tyre temperature and grip. Carry on, sir.
As George is going back out on the full wets. Okay. So is that the only guy on the full wets, or we got some others out there? But I wonder how much...
Latifi and Zhou Guanyu and Lando Norris.
What do you guys think on how much the last lap and the ding-dong with Lance Stroll that Seb had might have had a contributory factor as to Seb thinking, do you know what, I'm not here to fight like this with my teammate. And what do you think?
I don't think it was a spur-of-the-moment thing with Sebastian Vettel. I'm sure he's been thinking about it all season long, as you would when you approach that stage in your career. But I thought, as Alonso goes 6th fastest in the end, I thought the way that Lance kind of slammed the door on him for that 10th place, had that have been between any two drivers who weren't at the same team, then the one who finished 11th would have gone straight to the steward saying that's not fair.
No.
My tyre's cold or something?
We are struggling to generate temp. Rear axle in particular.
And that has become quite apparent in the last 10 minutes or so. Do you think that would have had any impact on said decision? The last lap in France?
I don't really think so. I think, from my experience, I think there is a point, in your career where you sort of go, either you're not enjoying it anymore, or secondly, you go, I've lost that little edge. And when I think you think that is the time you say, right, it's time to bow out. So I think it's more probably down to either the enjoyment or more down to I've just lost that little edge. Maybe it's a bit of both.
I can see how maybe that triggered the let's just surprise everybody in terms of the timing and just not give them a heads up because I'm a little bit annoyed. I can see that, but I agree with Johnny. I imagine the decision he probably knew in his own mind for a few weeks, or maybe even months before.
Yeah. He won't mind me sharing this because I've told him to his face. We knew when Mark Webber was going to announce his retirement, we knew that the season that he was going to step down.
Well, for some reason, it really feels like on ice, my foot, oh my God.
So Mick Schumacher experienced the ice effect and a beautiful pirouette and 360 from Charles Leclerc.
And nearly another one there. One corner later.
Wow. Let's see a replay of the Charles Leclerc spin, because just stand by and admire the car control and the way that he got out of this. There he goes. Beautiful.
Beautiful, absolutely. 9 out of 10.
It would have definitely caught his attention, because that barrier on the right comes up pretty quickly. When you don't, when you're spinning around, you sort of know where you're going to land, but you're also kind of hoping you land where you want. And the other moment we were riding on board with.
I don't know about you, Karun, but I'm glad I'm not in one of those. But I'm actually glad I am watching these guys being tested to the absolute maximum at the moment, because I think this is good. If it carries on like this and we go into qualifying, it's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
No.
Well, look at George. He goes straight on.
He's got no grip on this tyre either.
This is turning into massive struggles for Mercedes here. And the simple point you make, Karun, just go round and round. That'll generate the tyre temperature. I don't think that's a fix for Mercedes. So what else have they got at their disposal?
Well, if anything, when they do have moments like that, it's the opposite. Because the when you're going slowly in the runoff area and trying to rejoin, the temperature's dropping. And then you can't bring it back up. At least in the pits, you can artificially use the blankets to bring the temperature up. But as soon as the blankets come off and they even trundle down the pit lane, it's just plummeting. He's now gone back to the intermediate tyre. Maybe he'll have a bit of grip on this outlap with some heat from the blankets, but wow, it's not. It doesn't look like fun for them at the moment.
Because at this rate, and looking at the cars on the track, you'd say George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, they'll struggle to get out of Q1.
I mean, look at the bottom 4 in the timesheets, guys.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Yeah, that's me, mate. Yeah. Thanks anyway.
Cheers for reminding me. Yes, the bottom 4, Russell, Hamilton, Perez, Verstappen. The bottom 5, add Esteban Ocon to that, and he won this race last year.
We would have seen that last year, would you? 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bulls, and the
and the winner. Down to the bottom 5.
There we go. Verstappen on a better lap, but first sector still 6/10 down on what Alonso managed earlier on. He's on the intermediate tyres. Let's have a look.
And look,
the middle sector.
Out in front, Charles Leclerc, who was fastest yesterday, Sebastian Vettel, who we know goes well here, and with that extra downforce from that new rear wing on the Aston Martin, that will only help. To be generating tyre by squashing that car down to the track. Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, and Johnny's tip for the top, Kevin Magnussen, this weekend.
Is that sunshine?
Yep, it is now starting
broken through
to break through the clouds. Fernando Alonso's just on the quickest first sector on his latest lap. Verstappen still so cautious going around the final corner.
But he's hustling that thing, and with that hustle, that is generating some temperature in the tyre. It doesn't look very nice at all, but I think that's the only way you're going to be able to generate enough temperature to give you that grip.
He's so far off Alonso's pace, though, isn't he?
I mean,
it's
going to take time to generate. It's like you said earlier, Crew. Yes, you've got to do laps. It's the only way. With the sun coming out, it's going to just change every single lap.
It's nearly a second and a half slower than Alonso in just the first 2 sectors. And we'll see that there's obviously decent grip in the track and the tyres there. Alonso's gone within 2/10 of Leclerc's time, which was before that last band of rain that we've had. So the track is improving, but Verstappen, pretty similar time. Well, actually, having said that, now he has. Okay, the temperature's coming in Max's tyres now. This lap.
I was just going to say, there's 7 laps difference between Alonso and Verstappen.
I was going to say the same. Yeah, exactly. And that is just generating that temperature. I was talking about the way he's hustling it around. That's not quite the hustle. I think we were probably thinking from Sergio there. But you're right. Fernando has done a good few laps on those tyres.
Correct. Ted, down to you again.
just had a slightly close run thing in the pit lane between Daniel Ricciardo, who was steaming down the pit lane in his McLaren, and I believe it was Zhou Guanyu, who just left the pits. Does it say that Zhou...
They're running close to each other on the track.
I'm not surprised. They almost crashed into each other. Zhou was released into the path of Ricciardo.
2 ticks, Ted.
And you might get a replay.
These tyres are just not working at all. They're so cold. How, I don't know.
Well, stay out there long enough, George, and maybe if you've got the fuel on board, they might heat up. That's the only option Mercedes have got.
Oh. Sebastian Vettel's in the barrier. Sebastian Vettel in the barrier at turn 10. You saw the yellow flag come out. And that's not normally a place you see cars sliding off, but it's a different sort of day today here in Budapest. And they've red flagged the session with 9 minutes to go. That might be the end of any meaningful running here, which, well, look, if you're Mercedes desperately trying to find a cure to your problems, getting no extra running from here on in would be a huge blow. But how much damage is on that Aston Martin? Oh, lost the rear ends. Oh, he's gone in backwards.
Horrible angle.
Oh. Sorry.
Oh! And he was finding pace and he was finding grip, and that's driver error by that reaction, isn't it?
That's a horrible angle for the
gearbox.
Yes. I mean, look, gearboxes, we will reiterate, the rules have changed this season. You get a pool of gearboxes for the season rather than, well, here's your race gearbox that you're running on a Friday morning. If you're going to change it from here on in, that will probably be a penalty. So that is some crumb of comfort. However, and they have got spare rear wings, I'm told, as well, of the new rear wing at Aston, so that might be another crumb of comfort. But from Seb's reaction, it's like, oh, damn, that was my fault. I was trying, I was pushing. And he's just ended up turn 10. You're approaching that normally at about 130 miles an hour, scrub off about, what, 20 miles an hour in this sort of condition. So maybe we'll say about 100 miles an hour by the time he hits the gravel.
Yeah, frustrating. You could sense it because, you know, he'd come out of the corner and I think he just got the rear tires on a little puddle of water and it lit up there as he was trying to unleash the 1,000 Mercedes horsepower.
Yeah. Just to go back, by the way, I was saying we could tell when Mark Webber was going to retire from Formula One. He took all the media out for dinner in Australia for the Australian Grand Prix, and I said, at that point, we knew you were going to retire. He said, well, why did you say that? I said, because you've never taken anyone out for dinner ever before in terms of the media, and you were full of bonhomie and generosity.
Was it a little notebook or something we got given as well? Something like that, yeah. So that was a bit of a clue as well.
That was the dead clue giveaway. But yeah, fair play. I knew I was leaving at that stage. Then I remember taking Daniel Ricciardo to the Download Rock Festival later on in the season, and on the way up there he said, "Yeah, I'm moving to Monaco soon." I went, "Oh, really?" There's only one reason anyone moves to Monaco, Daniel. Leaves Woburn Sands behind. That's because you get in for a big pay rise. Have you got Mark's job, have you? You taking Mark's seat? Well, I can't say. Can't say at the moment. So we did an interview where I didn't ask him the direct question, and he didn't give me the direct answer, but it was a good enough one, and we kept it for a couple of races until Mark made his announcement. The things you find out, this is why you need to get to heavy metal, Karun. The things you find out at a heavy metal festival. You love it.
It's all right. I'll just let you tell me later.
No, there's certain heavy metal that you can go to.
Love it.
On that note, I've got to wander to the paddock.
How apt. How fortunate for you. The session is going to resume in about a minute and a half's time, but you can go to the paddock.
I will let you play your heavy metal playlist for Johnny at the end of it.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sure he'd love it.
No, I'm going to come with you.
We've got all the fun of the fair. Rise Against
very aware.
The Who, we've got that bit of No Bro.
I'm with you there.
It's all on there, Johnny. Let's go down to Ted.
Oh, Johnny, he's full of the stories today, Crofty, isn't he? Has he told you about the time he met long-distance runner Kip Kano in the lift? No? That's a good one.
You said you wouldn't tell that story on air.
That's a good one. Right, first of all, let me give you a weather line.
Going far, I said. Yeah, always, he said.
And the weather is actually clearing to the northeast, so it's coming in from sort of Croatia, Austria area. So if you get your maps app out, you can see where these places are that I'm talking about. We've got Budapest, and then to the due west, we've got Graz, actually the closest town to the Austrian Grand Prix. We're very close to the Austrian border, as those of you who know your geography will know. And then to the southeast, we've got there's another unsafe release into Daniel Ricciardo, and that's Nicholas Latifi. So that's the second one Ricciardo's had in two runs. People being dropped in front of him in the pit lane. So it's towards Zagreb and Croatia and the coast. Then it's sort of patchy rain. So I think these are exactly the kind of conditions, with the hot sun bearing through and drying the track out, and then the odd bit of rain we're going to get for qualifying. So definitely worth tuning in on this little race club Saturday that we have here on Sky F1. So yeah, there we go, green light, and they're off again.
And we are 4 minutes to go then. Nicholas Latifi in no hurry, because he's got the right to leave the pits in the way that he would want to there. And Mercedes are going to get a little bit more running, Johnny, to see if they could just find a way to get some temperature into the rear of their car.
Yeah, well, again, the circuit drying, still wet on track, of course, but it's drying, and that will enable them just to load up that tyre that little bit more, and that's the only way you are able to get temperature into the tyre, because obviously from all that sort of conversation we heard from George, they can't even load the tyre, which loading is actually trying to get that sidewall to bite, of course, with that wet or intermediate sort of pattern you have on the top to sort of generate that surface, then goes sort of deep into the core of it, and then you're actually really starting to sort of put that load onto the tarmac itself. And at the present time they're struggling massively, but this is where they're hopefully going to get into that window of being able to sort of load that tyre.
Everyone's on the intermediates at this stage as well. The track has dried out sufficiently to make intermediates the tyre of choice. Offline, still a lot of puddles. Online, should be okay. So let's follow this through with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I think puddles, Crofty, to be honest, I think I've sort of pretty much disappeared. You're always going to get a lock. I don't think a puddle's always something that's going to actually make the front end lock or the rear end break away. It's just the traction. You know, you try and get more throttle on, you're going to suffer a little bit more with that sort of rear end kicking out. So
got the power on when he wanted to there, Max Verstappen, without any rear end instability. The chicane looks tricky as ever.
Yeah. But it's just how aggressive he can be with that steering wheel, as I said a little bit before, and that is the only way you're able to hustle the car to sort of generate that temperature. But of course you need the car to have that sort of little bit of a feedback to enable you to do that anyway, and it has to be very progressive when you go from braking, turning into the corner itself to the apex.
Right, let's follow this progress with George Russell, who has complained about tyre... Oh, let's go to the Alpine.
But like driving on ice.
Thank you, we're back with George Russell. Because actually, let's see, is there rear end stability in any way, shape or form? Is he getting grip from those rear tyres? Not there.
Not there, no. It beat me to it. But again, the more laps you do, the more that temperature will build up. But you know, we just saw it there from Joe. You know, struggling. Again, on the outlap, it's not probably a big surprise in many respects. Certain tracks you do sort of generate it much quicker, but obviously with this type of circuit we got here, the tyres are struggling that little bit more. But as I've said earlier on, this is where the skill set really does come to the fore. Yes, the best car is always going to be able to generate that little bit more, but there is still those opportunities for someone like Kevin, I'll mention it again, where they are able to just hustle it around because it's forgiving.
Look at Max Verstappen.
Yeah, but this is
what,
again,
the first sector at 34.1.
Yeah, but really leaning and making the car work to get that tyre temperature to come through.
So he's 9/10 up. George Russell is double that amount down.
Yeah, I can see
through two sectors.
Very tentative at the moment. Very tentative.
And they're trying to get on the throttle. And the car going sideways more quickly than it was going forwards.
Yeah, and you can always see the rear end is something that's sort of kicking out for George there a little bit. Generally, it's the rear will actually warm up the quickest, because obviously with all that wheel spin, it generates that little bit more temperature.
It was completely against the Mercedes cars of old, if you remember back to sort of 12 and 13. They were overheating the rears
and stuff,
rather than not getting the temperature. George Russell goes 10th in the end. His final sector wasn't too bad, actually, a 29.4 with the final sector, which does tend to suggest that the more running that is done, the better off they're going to be. Esteban Ocon goes 11th, just behind George Russell, and Max Verstappen has had enough of languishing at the bottom 5, goes to the top with a 1:43.2.
Yeah, and Latifi's on a good one at the moment.
Yes, he is, as Charles Leclerc now goes to the top, and that's a second between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. So just in case you were thinking, well, Red Bull have got something to bring to the party here, Ferrari have slammed that theory well and truly in your face for a while. Nicholas Latifi is now finding pace on what is his second flying lap since the resumption here. Alex Albon, his teammate, goes second fastest. Now, I also think, Johnny, the track is drying up quite significantly in these latter stages. Nicholas Latifi, keep going, Nick.
Yeah.
Because this could be the first time, and I'm pretty certain I'm right in saying this, that you will have led a practice session in Formula One. And if he has led any other practice sessions, I apologise, because I certainly don't remember them. But this could be Nicholas Latifi right at the top of the charts. There you go, Nick. Well done.
Bang. Well done.
6/10 faster than Charles Leclerc. So I think conditions, Johnny, getting an awful lot drier in terms of a better line. George Russell goes 5th fastest right at the end. Carlos Sainz goes 7th fastest. Oh, I'm really pleased for Nick Latifi. You know, on the track he got his first points at this time last year, and this won't count for points whatsoever. But
Alex as well in the top 3 as well.
It will prove, Johnny, the one thing that is going to be absolutely vital come qualifying in these sort of conditions, be on the right tyres at the right time.
Well, probably most importantly is having these conditions a little bit later on. We need a bit of sprinkling, I think, for Williams there. They'll be praying for it, and it's going to be hanging around. It might be there. But that's what we want, because this is going to be really, really fascinating.
And if you get it right, John, if you can be the last person to start the lap before the checkered flag, and you make the line before the checkered flag, you give yourself, in these drying conditions, so much more of a chance to get that lap in. Now, on the downside, yellow flag could absolutely ruin your ambitions there.
Sure, there's always that, but that's always been part of motorsport in general. But when you get this opportunity in these conditions, as I said right at the very beginning, there are those chances, sprung surprises, and we've seen in the past, and we're seeing probably at the present time.
Well, there's smiles there for the Williams team, who currently find themselves bottom in the Constructors' Championship with 3 points on the board. And Jos Capito, their team boss, big thumbs up from him. 1st and 3rd. Wow. That bodes well, doesn't it, Johnny?
Well, it does, if it's, as I said, if it stays like this.
What's the lap time of Latifi?
So Latifi lap time 41.5.
Inters also?
Yes, Inters.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc's a bit baffled here, because I rather get the feeling he thought he'd done enough to get the fastest time like he did in FP2 yesterday. He's like, oh, where did that time come from? But I think on a drying track, sun was coming out a little bit, and the skill of the driver rather made the difference there. Well done, Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah.
By the way, I think, was it 2020 he got to Q2 here, and the only time he got to Q2 that season as well. And has won here in F2.
And you're currently P1, 41.4. That was a good effort. And we are boxing.
If that clapping was for me.
Well, it was.
It was, yeah.
It absolutely was. There was a young man from Toronto who got on with it pronto.
Yeah, he did, and it was actually
the only rhyme I could think of.
I know, but it was, I was waiting for something. That was still very good from you. Yeah, but he actually was fighting the car really nicely, especially out of that last corner. Went very, very wide to sweep in quite late, get on the power, had a bit of a twitch at the rear end, but that carried momentum towards the line. So that was just in a short distance that you could see that he was very confident within that cockpit.
But don't forget Charles Leclerc right up there as well, as was Max Verstappen towards the end. Big margins in terms of the time differences here because the track was drying out. A frustrating morning if you were Ferrari. Their team boss Mattia Binotto saying that it's a bit of a lottery conditions like this. They'd rather it was dry. I'm sure Williams thinking exactly the opposite. Anything to give us a bit of a leveler and a bit of a chance. Nicholas Latifi top then for the first time in a practice session in his Formula One career. Well done to him. Charles Leclerc second and Alex Albon third. 1 and 3 for Williams. So Verstappen fourth fastest. George Russell got a lap in. Others didn't right towards the end, but he finally got I think it was a third flying lap towards the end. And that was enough for fifth fastest, so that will give Mercedes a bit of hope. They've really struggled out there today. Sebastian Vettel was pushing hard. He hit the barrier, was the only one that did. Pierre Gasly had a bit of a spin at the chicane. Really tricky conditions on a wet day here in Budapest. And it's a great day of motorsport action on Sky Sports F1 as well. We've got the F2 race to come later. We've got the W Series coming your way too. And we've got qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're going to run and run and run here, and we're not going off air from Budapest. So put the kettle on now, make a quick cup of tea, because our build up to qualifying starts in a few moments. And what a qualifying it could be.
Can get